Unsettled. We are now going to be discussing the case of, well, it's more of a confusing case of Cindy James and her invisible killer.
Ooh. I like the ice bullet. Nobody knows they're there until it's too late.
Okay, so this case has been widely, I guess, talked about. A lot of people have given their own speculations on what they think might have happened. Okay, so let's just say even the law enforcement don't believe there was a killer.
Okay. What, like she took her own life, or?
You'll find out.
Okay.
So if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe, drop a comment below, your thoughts on this case. Obviously watch it till the end and just give us your opinion.
Every little helps.
We're not a charity.
No, but it does.
Every little helps.
It does.
People only say that if they're small.
The good, bad and the ugly.
Now turned into a western. So I shall begin.
Okay.
On June 8th, 1989. Wow, a year after I was born. The quiet city of Richmond, a suburb in Vancouver, was shocked to see a body was laying outside an abandoned house. The victim was identified as 44-year-old nurse Cindy James. She had been drugged and strangled, and her hands and feet had been tied behind her back.
Hog-tied.
Yes.
Oh dear.
She had previously been the victim of harassment and assault from an unknown assailant. Despite this, the local police believe her death was either accident or fucking suicide.
Or she got a really bad phone call and rushed out the house.
And got caught up in, like, I don't know, her washing line. No. Right, so Cindy graduated nursing school in 1966.
Okay, so she was medically trained.
She's a nurse.
Mm.
Okay. She was married but had no children of her own. In July 1982, her husband and Cindy separated.
Okay.
We are kind of unsure for what reason, and since then she did date a few men in the police field and so on, right? So just bear this one in mind for a bit later on. 4 months later, after a separation from her husband, it began. First, it was a cause, mostly threatening. During the next 7 years, she reported over 100 incidents of harassment. 5 were violent and physical attacks. That's a lot of harassment.
She pissed off a lot of people.
She must be a shit nurse.
Or a little bit too good at one.
While the rest of this was also crude, threatening, sometimes whispering phone calls she would receive. Okay?
No one likes those deep-throated phone calls.
I don't know, I like a bit of deep throat. Oh, what about voice calls? Okay. Right. Things got worse after she involved the police at night.
Okay.
She basically made a shit ton of reports saying she had people outside her window, her porch lights were smashed, her phone lines were often cut.
Does sound a bit like hypochondriac.
I know a few people like that. Dead cats were also hung up in her yard.
Oh, witchcraft.
No, just threats, I think.
Okay.
Her dog was also nearly strangled to death.
Oh.
No. Strange notes appeared on her doorstep, cut out letters to often spell, "I see you, Cindy."
Oh.
Or worse. Any thoughts so far?
She's got herself a stalker.
Right. Over time, Cindy refused to say much to the police as she felt they didn't do anything, but she was certain someone was out to get her or scare her to the point of death.
Okay.
She would often withhold information to the police and her family about what was going on.
Well, that's never a good idea.
Yeah. Over time, police began to doubt her due to her stories and her not wanting to share many details. Right.
She's become suspicious to herself.
Yeah. Cindy's friend, Agnes, would often check on Cindy, I guess, throughout the whole time. On January 1983, sorry, Agnes popped up to Cindy's home. She rang, no answer. She assumed she may be in the shower or still at work. Now bear in mind, from I guess 1980s onwards this continued, right?
Yeah.
So keep this in mind. As she peered around the house as she was leaving, knowing Cindy was suffering all this harassment, she saw Cindy outside, crouched down, with a nylon stocking around her neck. She was upset and scared. She claimed she went to the garage and someone came up behind her, choked her, and then something spooked him and he ran off. All she saw was his white trainers. So possibly Agnes could have spooked this person.
Yeah.
Maybe if he existed.
Maybe.
Due to the harassment, Cindy moved house, painted her own car, changed the number plates, and also changed her last name. She also hired a private detective, Ozzy Caban.
Okay.
It seems a bit much for a fake so far.
Yeah.
Right? The police continued their investigation and questioned Cindy on every detail, but the police and even her private investigator knew she was withholding information.
Okay.
Bit suspiciously weird, maybe? Okay. A polygraph test showed, and the tester said, she never answered everything properly as though she was scared. Her family soon set forth and said, she's withholding information as we believe our lives may be at risk.
Okay. It would explain why she wouldn't tell everyone everything.
Maybe. On the night of January the 30th, 1984, Ozzy heard strange noises and sounds coming from the two-way radio he gave Cindy for protection. So he heard strange noises. Okay? Within a few moments he arrived at Cindy's and the house was locked. He looked through the window and saw Cindy on the floor with a paring knife through her hand.
Ow.
She was taken to hospital. She recalled she was attacked and a needle went in her arm. A letter was laying next to her saying, "You a dead bitch."
Okay. Nice.
So at this point she was sedated by a needle and stabbed in the hand with a knife. But that seems to be it. You would think that if the killer wanted her dead, he would have done it there and then.
Yeah, but it's like the psychological warfare, though, isn't it?
Also, is it possible, and I'll say this very briefly because I'll touch on it a bit later, is it possible that the killer wanted people to think that Cindy was going a bit funny?
Could be, like...
Right, just to play the mental
insane
mind
part,
game.
yeah.
Police found no fingerprints in her home, not even the use of a needle or where it was. And there was no entry, no forceful entry, nothing like that.
Okay.
Cindy claimed she had seen this suspect before, and she had also seen him with two other people.
Okay.
But she never said who.
Right.
The calls continued. When Cindy had...
Could be an ex-lover.
Maybe.
That has a key cut or something.
You might be getting it. So the calls continued. The harassment continued. But when Cindy had surveillance, no calls happened.
That's a bit weird.
Soon as surveillance stopped, the calls would happen again.
Okay. Yeah, but then that could be that the house is being surveillanced anyway. Or they know... You know, like you'd... If they're doing their own surveillance, then you'd see a surveillance car.
Yeah. So police was heavily suspicious.
Which they would be, yeah.
And Cindy knew they didn't believe her. On December the 11th, 1985, Cindy was found dazed, semi-conscious, laying in a ditch 6 miles from her home, wearing a man's working boot and a glove, semi-naked, suffering hypothermia. Cuts and bruises all over her body, and yet again a nylon stocking around her neck tied together and a needle mark in her arm.
Okay. She on drugs.
Seems a bit...
She's self-medicating.
But it seems a bit... Whoa, it's like we've gone over loads of cases.
Oh yeah.
The killer will get the job done, not build up or tease it. He's got this opportunity.
This is a whole new one. This is psycho shit.
Yeah.
This is like,
right.
I'm going to toy with you a bit.
So she had no memory over what happened. Agnes and her husband, Tom, began to stay with Cindy
It's definitely Tom. It's got to be Tom.
to protect her. Then, one night, Tom awoke, and so did the other two, like Cindy and Agnes, to strange noises coming from the basement. Then, flames erupted. Tom ran to the phone. The phone line was cut. He ran out into the street and saw a man staring at Cindy's home. He shouted, "Can you ring 911?" The man, instead of helping, ran off.
Yeah, which would be okay. This
Right.
is a severe devotion to them,
Right, okay.
like or severe devotion
So-
to her, like blah blah blah.
Okay.
Like I can't have her, no one will. That kind
You
of
ready
stuff.
for the now a little twist in this?
Okay.
So, obviously the fire was put out, no one was harmed. Police found no fingerprints, and they also found the fire started inside. Police found it odd Cindy would happily also walk her dog, a small dog, at night despite these attacks.
Okay.
A small dog's not going to protect
it's
you.
like she's asking for it.
Yes, but it's also like, is this planned? The police also said the night of the fire, it seemed someone was let in through a window.
Okay.
Right. Cindy's doctor, after this much torment, you know, that she's been going through from all of this for like fucking 7 years plus, right? Committed her to a local psychiatric ward as he believes Cindy was suicidal.
Which you would be after years of torment.
Okay. 10 years
Whether
later.
it be self-torment or...
Okay, 10 years later. No, sorry, not 10 years. 10 weeks later, she was let out and admitted she knew who her attacker may be. She even said she would get him herself if the police wouldn't.
Okay.
Sounds like she ain't got much of a chance at this point, mate.
No.
Right. October 1988. Her ex-husband, at the time, was the person of interest. As he
Prime
would be.
suspect.
He was a psychiatrist.
Okay. It would,
Yeah, okay. But that, right, please bear in mind, psychiatrists back then had a lot of money. She was a nurse, they had money.
Yeah.
It wasn't like
Is
a
it?
money, there's not a
No,
money issue
no.
here, right? He was obviously, I guess, one of the suspects. He actually went to the police as he received a disturbing voicemail on his home phone. Cindy, dead meat soon.
Okay.
Right? The voice was raspy and croaky. Seemed very odd, the police thought. Cindy came home from work and was attacked in a carport. She was found unconscious in her car, nude from the waist down, legs apart, a nylon stocking tied yet again around her neck.
Okay. This is
Right.
personal.
Yeah. Her legs and arms yet again hog-tied. But she had duct tape over her mouth and had slipped into a coma. She had survived.
Okay.
In spring 1989, she reported that the
It's
attack...
like they're ramping it up every time.
They're going a little bit more, aren't they? It's interesting. I'd like to meet the killer.
I wouldn't.
I'd be like, what is your issue with a nylon stocking around a woman's neck?
Well, it's like that movie, like Blue Velvet, isn't it? Like he likes to touch the velvet, and that's what triggers him to. It's a very weird movie. It's very weird, but it's the psychological thing.
Okay. In spring 1989, she reported that the attacks and calls wasn't so frequent. Her family said that she was possibly happier.
Okay. He'd got his jolly off or whatever in the car and backed off, maybe.
You ready?
Or so they think.
On March 25th, 1989, 6 years and 7 months after the first call and attack, Cindy disappeared. On the same day, her car was found in a parking lot with food and a wrapped gift in the back. So she'd been grocery shopping, obviously. Blood was on the driver's door and items from her purse was left under her car, as though she was snatched, possibly getting into it.
Or getting out.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
2 weeks later, her body found, hog-tied, nylon stocking around the throat, and only a kilometre from where her car was found.
Mm.
Right.
As I said, he's ramping it up every time.
To the point of that part where she died, right? Yeah. Ozzy believed someone done it in the police force who may have been obsessed with her. She was dating this person in the police force for 4 months. That could explain no fingerprints, no clues, how he was getting in and out, right?
Yeah.
Autopsy revealed death by overdose on morphine and other narcotics. Police stated it was suicide. Ozzy said you couldn't stage the scene. Ray, her ex-husband...
You couldn't tie the nylon stocking around your throat.
Unless she's got an obsession with asphyxiation.
Yeah, but then...
BDSM.
Yeah, but then
maybe
even then she would have to do it with someone. You can't hog tie yourself, mate.
It sounds like a kinky nurse.
It does sound like a kinky nurse.
Right. Ozzy,
you can't hog tie yourself.
Right. Ozzy said, obviously, you can't stage this type of scene. It's too horrific, it's too graphic. Ray, her ex-husband, said the police didn't do enough and said that if they did, she'd be alive. Instead, they ruled her death as an unknown event. Right. I will add, like I said, Cindy was seeing a policeman and obviously a psychiatrist after a relationship fell apart. Many believe Cindy suffered split personality disorder, but this was never confirmed when she was put into the psychiatric unit. Her family and the private detective believe someone wanted her dead. Her parents passed away not knowing what really happened, but her sister Melanie Hack, I think it's Hack, could be Hack, wrote a book and has a website dedicated to finding the killer.
Okay.
Now, what I find really odd, she went to such great lengths. She withheld information. She was a nurse. She could get hold of morphine. Maybe she was addicted to it.
Okay.
Maybe. She had, obviously...
She had the means.
Yeah, she had... It was all there for her. Like, when I read this case, and obviously it's quite a famous case, to some extent, but when I read this, I was thinking, okay, maybe she did have split personality disorder. Maybe it was possibly to try and get her ex-husband back in her life. It's still unknown why they split. Okay. That was my thought process, because I was just like, this doesn't make sense. The police felt heavily that she made it up herself.
No.
But
I don't reckon that.
But
you can't.
Okay. This part of me believes that maybe she did, because she knew her friend Agnes was coming over.
Yeah.
Why not put a stocking round your neck and make out someone attacked you? Maybe for a bit more attention. Maybe it was a lonely mental mindset. People do crazy things when they're lonely, right? Maybe this was all, or maybe she was trying to get that police officer back in her life that she was dating, and this was the only means of doing so. It seems weird that when the phones were surveillance, no calls had happened. It seems weird the fire broke out and it happened inside. It seems that a lot of this, despite what the police said, she would walk a small dog at night, and if she's scared for her life, you wouldn't put yourself at that risk. You would walk with someone, not walk on your own, walking a dog.
No.
Thoughts? Come on, give me something here. It is...
Well, going back to the police officer.
Right. I don't know what his name was.
No. So he would have the means to know when they were casing the joint. He'd have the means to know her route. Like, maybe she wasn't walking her dog alone. Maybe she was walking her dog to someone.
Maybe. But they were watching her.
Exactly.
They suspected her of setting all this shit up on her own. Including the fire in the basement.
Okay. But then he would have the means and know-how to get in and out somewhere without leaving.
Or he could have been the person that would wipe the fingerprints away.
Or
it does make... Okay,
cover it up through paperwork. Maybe he was first on scene.
Yeah.
Like it.
But what startles me...
The end game, you can't set that up.
Okay.
yourself anyway.
Okay, so we're going back to obviously, just quickly, the fact that her car was found in the parking lot with food and a wrapped gift.
Yeah.
Okay, so she'd been shopping. She don't know who the gift was for.
No.
That's another oddity because it's wrapped, right? Blood was on the driver's door. Was it her blood or the killer's blood? No one actually knows.
Okay.
Right. Items from her purse found under the car, like I said, could have fell out when she was snatched. Possibly. 2 weeks later, her body was found. After. And it's a kilometre from where her car was found.
So I'm falling more onto the person who had, the killer was someone who had romantic interests.
Or an obsession.
Or an obsession with her.
Or just liked her in a nurse's uniform wearing stockings. That seems to be what he's tying her up with.
Well, there we are. That's the thing.
I see the obsession.
Like, it's that. But it is. It's that sort of, like, that love aspect of it, of a stalker going, if I can't have her, no one will. But it's the slow, traumatic build to the end.
So if we're going to work with something, so she knows that the police don't believe her, so she ups the ante. I will be your counterpart.
Okay.
Right, I'll be that person that says Cindy did this to herself.
Right.
For possibly attention, love, whatever the fuck. Okay, she obviously had possibly a couple of mental issues here. But bipolar or split personality wasn't put on here. Right. So we're going to we're going to break it down. So she gets phone calls. Okay. Threatening ones, anyone can fake them. She could get someone to call up that she knows at hospital to go, can you say this when Agnes is round?
True.
Right, yeah? The fire in the basement, she could have let someone in and said, right, set fire to it, make sure it goes off, make sure people see it because no one believes me. Maybe she did have a stalker and then it died off and she thought, no, it needs to continue. Just a thought process, right? So, okay, so she had scissors a knife through her hand, and that letter had no fingerprints on it. That was cut up saying "dead bitch" or "you're dead bitch." That's a bit weird.
But it wouldn't if it's done professionally.
But the knife through the hand should have the injections of morphine and narcotics. She could easily get hold of.
True.
Was she a morphine addict? She can get hold of it, right? Okay, but this other thing. So this is the part that I want to discuss. So, obviously, her ex-husband went to the police and said, look, I've had this threatening phone call. Cindy dead meat soon. You get the idea, right? And the fact she was found unconscious in her car, nude from the waist down, which you can do yourself. Maybe she had like asphyxiation where she did tie the stocking round her neck to get herself off. And it just felt better when she's high on morphine. Hey, look.
No, it's a big jump.
You've heard of people actually killing themselves because they're getting themselves off and they do the strangulation technique.
A bit too much.
Was she a bit of a...
I'm not ruling it out.
Right, okay. So she is nude from the waist down. The nylon stocking around her neck, it was tied tight, bearing in mind. Right, so this would explain why she's unconscious. But then her arms and legs hog-tied, but duct tape over her mouth. So she would put the duct tape over, inject the morphine, pull down these, tie her legs and arms. That's as good as it gets.
Yeah, but it's the hog. You wouldn't.
But the thing is, there's no.
You would think if she was self-pleasuring.
Nah.
You wouldn't need.
You can hog tie yourself. You can hog tie yourself.
Not properly.
You can still do it. Maybe she.
But then, as I said, like the aspect of her doing it to get off. She's just hog-tied her hands, and the only means of her getting off behind her back.
Unless it's to the front.
No, it states hog-tied behind her.
I'm just saying. Okay, there was other reasons why. Like maybe.
No, but you know what I mean. Like it's.
But okay, so she did slip into a coma. Okay.
Okay.
So we're thinking on this as possibly she sat in the car. No one's going to see her from the waist down anyway. If this was a normal killer, as we've discussed previously, it doesn't matter what you show. You do it in front of everyone if need be. Yeah? But it's the fact she's in the car,
but this is that
waist down.
Yeah, but as I said, I'm still leaning on it's a stalker that's ramping it up every time.
Okay.
Like
I said, the only thing that confuses me is the fact that she would actually hire a private investigator.
That's what I mean.
And that's her own money.
Yeah, like if you're doing this to yourself, you're not gonna then hire a PI.
Depends how many people you want to believe it, mate.
Yeah, but then it wouldn't make any sense because you know you're gonna fuck up down the line. You know it's all gonna come out, but
unless a private investigator was in on it.
That would take a lot of money.
She had a lot of money.
I don't think we're going to agree on this one.
So you're going with a person who is obsessed with her.
Yeah, I'm going with a stalker that literally
does run off the
up. Yeah,
I've got to admit though, if he wanted her dead, as he said,
he could easily do it.
He could have easily done it. If you inject someone with morphine, they're not going to feel anything. It seems weird that she was stabbed in the hand. We don't know the scenario. No one knows what actually happened, other than the fact, obviously, the stabbing with the hand. Right?
Yeah.
But you'd think if he stabbed her in the hand in the home, he's got the opportunity to do more when she's hog-tied in the car, and he doesn't.
No, he just
when
pulls it a bit tight.
And when they find her and she's suffering hypothermia and everything else, there's bruises and cuts, mate, but nothing serious. And she's in a ditch.
Yeah, but then
he could have killed her then.
True, but then it's that ramping up.
It's that, oh, I've got away with this. If
What,
he's right, okay.
What other little bits can I get away with?
Put your mind in someone who is obsessed with her, who wants her, who like wants to be touched or wants to pleasure her. Just think of this, right? There's no efforts of sexual assault.
No.
It seems like he is just purely obsessed, which then obviously the police were like, hang on. Like, you're naked from the waist down, you're found in a ditch, you've had morphine injected into you, you're not going to feel anything, but you've had no sexual assault. This person seemingly just did this for a kick until obviously the death was alleged accidental.
Yeah. But then that's that edging up.
But there's still no death. Like, theoretically there's no stabbing, there's nothing.
No, but there's
it's just overdose on drugs.
Yeah.
It seems weird after he's stabbed her in the hand and he's done this.
But then he's got away with it either way.
Yeah.
Okay. Or she, or them. But
I don't know. I'm leaning towards more of the police theory here. That it seems
she
like
done it herself.
Hey.
We know a lot
cases.
a lot of crazy people, but
yeah, there's weirder cases out there. So your thoughts, anyone below, drop a comment, let us know what you think. Was this a case of asphyxiation and self-BDSM? I guess, some type of tying up, or was this actually a killer that no one would ever know? And yeah, a lot of people thought Cindy was insane because of all this. Because it seems weird that there's not enough substantial proof. And
well, there's never enough substantial evidence.
That's
why these cases are unsolved.
The amount of murders we've come across, people have been hacked to death and they still can't find them. But this, it was easy to kill however you wanted.
Either way you look at it, it's psychological.
Psychological killing with nylon stockings. She's in for a treat. See you in the next one.